And I have full confidence that David Ogden is the right man at the right time. Why do I know this? Well, as I said yesterday, we had a great U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota for years and years and years under both Republican and Democratic administrations, and then something happened. Republican-appointed U.S. Attorney Tom Heffelfinger, a friend of mine, who was the U.S. Attorney under George Bush I and George Bush II, he left of his own accord, but when he left, he found out his name was on a list to be fired. He was replaced by someone who didn't have management experience, and that office nearly blew up over just a 2-year period. It nearly blew up with one person in charge. Well, now under Attorney General McCasey, we at least have some peace in that office and things have improved, but I saw firsthand when you put someone in that isn't necessarily qualified for that job, when you put someone in that isn't putting the interests of the state first, I can see what happened. And so Eric Holder and his deputies and those that work for him have a big job on their hands, Mr. President. They not only have this rise in white-collar crime and these enormous issues to deal with, they also have a morale issue in the Justice Department, and no one says that's not true. And the way you fix morale in an institution as big as the Justice Department is you put people in place that have the respect of those that are working for them. Look at the numbers. The Department of Justice has more than 100,000 employees and a budget exceeding $25 billion. Every single federal law enforcement officer reports to the Deputy Attorney General, the nomination we're considering today, including the FBI, including the Drug Enforcement Administration, including the Bureau of Prisons, and all 93 U.S. Attorney's offices in this country. So what do we have here in David Ogden? Well, we have someone who has broad experience in law and in government, went to Harvard Law School, clerked for Justice Harry Blackmun, Minnesotan, may I add. He has been in both the public sector as a key person in the Justice Department under Attorney General Reno. He is someone who also has had private sector experience, and I personally like that when someone's been in government and they've also had some private sector experience representing private clients as well. He's an open-minded and moderate lawyer with broad support from lawyers of all political and judicial philosophies. So here you have someone with 6 years of leadership in a department when the department's morale was by all accounts good. We need to put him back in that department. Now I know that people on the other side of the aisle here, a few of them have raised issues about clients that he had in the past. Well, I can tell you as a lawyer, I think any lawyer, and there's plenty of lawyers in this chamber, have in fact represented clients they may not quite agree with, and they have to make sure the ethical rules are followed. I know as a prosecutor I chose to represent the state, but there was no one I admired more than those defense lawyers who were representing people who were charged with crimes. I didn't choose to do that side, but many people did. And in our system, in the United States of America, when someone gets in trouble or someone needs a lawyer, that's your job as a lawyer. And I think if we use some kind of standard that we were going to throw people out of this chamber because of clients that they had represented that we didn't agree with or things that they personally had done, it would be a very different chamber. And I think that people should be very careful about charges they make and decisions they make about reasons. They can oppose a nomination of someone if they want, but it better be for the right reasons, and I believe we have the right reasons here. You know, it's just Chief Justice Roberts, and I know that Chairman Leahy just quoted this, but I think it's very important to remember. Chief Justice Roberts, at his own confirmation hearing, that said, quote, "The principle that you don't identify the lawyer with the particular views of the client or the views that the lawyer advances on behalf of a client is critical to the fair administration of justice." And he went on to say, "It was my view," this is Chief Justice Roberts, "it was my view that lawyers don't stand in the shoes of their clients and that good lawyers can give advice and argue any side of a case. It has not been my general view that I sit in judgment on clients when they come to me. I viewed that as the job of the court when I was a lawyer. And just as someone once said, you know, this is Chief Justice Roberts, it's the guilty people who really need a good lawyer. I also have a view that I don't evaluate whether I as a judge would agree with a particular position when somebody comes to me for what I did, which was provide legal advice and assistance." So that's what we're talking about here. We have someone in this candidate who has broad support from people who have served in his role under both Democratic and Republican attorney generals. We have someone who has the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police. The endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police, major law enforcement organization, and someone who has the endorsement of the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. While at the Department of Justice, David Ogden also led the government's defense of various anti-pornography statutes against constitutional attack, even arguing forcefully against positions taken by some of those people he had formerly represented. For example, while at the Civil Division, David Ogden defended the Child Online Protection Act of 1998, which aimed to protect children from harmful material on the Internet by requiring pushers of obscene material to restrict their sites from access by minors. Under David Ogden, the Civil Division of the Justice Department aggressively defended that statute. While he was head of the Civil Division, David Ogden also defended the Child Pornography Prevention Act, which expanded the ban on child pornography to cover virtual child pornography. And I know this as a prosecutor. I know how damaging this is. We had cases where people who were preying on children would actually see their images on the Internet, would figure out who they are. We had one case where we went after someone who met a kid at the mall that he met on the Internet. And then the police looked at all those images that were on that guy's Internet site, and they actually traced it to another kid who didn't even know that her picture was on that Internet site. That's what we're talking about this. Explicit images that appear to depict minors but were produced without using any real children, or perhaps using a real children and putting them in the imagery, computer-generated imagery. That's what David Ogden did. He protected these statutes, he defended these statutes, and he will continue to do that at the Department of Justice. Mr. President, this strong support for families and children is why David Ogden received the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's endorsement, the Boys and Girls Club of America endorsement, and of course, because of his work with law enforcement, the Fraternal Order of Police and the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. You think these organizations just come and willy-nilly put their names on as endorsements? These organizations, venerable organizations that have been along for so long? No. They would not put their names on anyone who did not consider the protection of children as one of their paramount goals. They know that David Ogden will do that. They know what I know. David Ogden is a man of integrity and commitment to the rule of law. He is someone who will work with our Attorney General, Eric Holder, to restore credibility to the Justice Department, to restore morale, to make it the kind of place where lawyers and kids coming out of law school say, that's where I want to work, that's where I want to work. I want to go work for Eric Holder and David Ogden. That's what we need restored in our Justice Department. That's why we need to move this along the Senate floor. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor.